Well, good, very early afternoon for some and late afternoon for others. Welcome to another Wednesday night, episode number 154 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. Joining me, as always, all the way out in the West Coast, where I will be shortly, Mr. David Bash, the president of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, where all kinds of fun things going on and great announcements coming up. We can't quite say it yet,
but something very, very cool is about to happen.
Very cool is about to happen.
I was hoping to be able to announce it today, but I don't have all the specific details yet. So
it's like one of those cliffhangers.
I have to refrain, and it's not easy, but
TV show. And speaking of TV shows, Pluto Network, which is part of Hulu or something, they have every episode of The Twilight Zone. So I started at number 1, and I'm watching every episode again just because I can. And
well, that's great, and I'm always happy to discuss Twilight Zone with anybody who wants to.
I'll tell you what, I just finished episode, what was it, 4, The Long Walk Home.
You mean Walking Distance?
Or Walking Distance.
That's certainly one of my favorites.
Loved it. I mean, that one always hit home for me because I'm very nostalgic that way, and you know, I don't take it to the extreme that he did, where it's like, no, I'm your son, God. But you know, that's where I carved my name. That's where, you know. So I relate to that.
Let me ask you something. Suppose that happened to you. Suppose suddenly somebody comes into your life, and they're, you know, well, I mean, you're already. It's doubtful that somebody older than you will come into your life and say, "I'm your son," but except you don't have a son, so that's not going to work for you.
I'm sperm number 4,712. I could have been your son.
All right, let's just say, all right, well, let's make this more realistic. You're right. Let's say you're young, you're in your 30s, and suddenly Hannah in her 20s she comes up to you and says, "I'm your daughter." And how old would Hannah have been then? Maybe about 4 or something, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And so suddenly 27-year-old Hannah comes in to your life and says, "I'm your daughter." How do you respond to that? What do you ask her? How do you ask? Well, I mean, is your first response, all right, this is a joke, or because you have no idea what she's going to look like at that point?
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's
like his mom and dad in the show.
Your first response, is it a joke, or are you going to kind of go along with it and say, all right, well, prove it?
You know me. My answer is probably like, really? How'd this happen? You know, and it should be like, well, I'm from the future. I'm like, that's pretty freaking awesome. So, you know, what do you remember from being 4 years old or whatever? And if she can't get that right, because well,
there isn't much you can remember from when you were 4, I suppose.
No, but you know, I'd have a conversation. You know.
No, I would try it too. I would at the very least, I'd humor the person. And I'd be open to the possibility. And I, you know what, if you think about it, it doesn't say much for the future that nobody's come back and tried to, you know, like, what, there's never going to be time travel? Seriously?
Well, the problem is, if there is time travel, then there's always been time travel, you know? And John's down in the queue. John, we see you down there. We'll bring you up shortly, my friend. There's always been time travel if there is time travel. So somebody should have already been here by now because it's already in the future, and the future is already then written.
Well, there is that.
So if there's nobody here, then there probably isn't time travel. That's just what I'm saying.
Well, since everybody's life is just part of my dream, I guess I'm just not I'm not a very vivid dreamer then. So blame me.
Well, speaking of dreaming, I got to show you. I know we always talk about this, but I've got a brand new watch to show you on my arm. It's not that often that you saw. Look. There's
the back of it.
There's the band.
The purple band. Yeah.
Look at that. Well, this one's going to make you go, whoa, nice. Because I know you've liked this online, but this is my new Nubio Magellan automatic.
Wow, that what? How many millimeters is that one?
This one's 44.
Yeah, it looks pretty big. That's what she said.
Nice, nice purple.
No, that's very cool. Yeah,
nice purple automatic. I'm digging it. It fits kind of nicely on the wrist. It's going to be my California adventure watch.
Oh, nice. I'll get to see it firsthand.
So there you go. Yeah.
First wrist.
First wrist.
Yeah, I got a new used one recently, not as fancy as yours, but Shinola is a very
out of Detroit.
Yeah, it's a very well-known watch brand, and they have a model called the Mechanic, which is a wind-up watch. It's not automatic or quartz, so you have to wind it every day. And I always wanted one, and this is one of the varieties that's out of print, the cream color with the blue numerals. So that someone had it on eBay for a really good price, and I had to go for it. So,
yeah, Shinola they make nice watches. Yeah,
they do. But
I like the brand.
I'm actually going to put on one that I've shown before because it goes better with my outfit. Of course, the Accutron Space Fuse 60th anniversary. That's a classic.
Very nice. Very nice.
Very, very nice. Thank you. Yeah, well, that's where they got the name, John. They wanted to say that they weren't shit, but they really are Shinola. I got a box set in the mail recently.
Yeah, you were talking about this.
Q65, one of the great Netter beat bands, from that Netherlands beat music, pop music scene of the mid 60s.
Yeah, look at that box set.
They finally did the band justice with a great box set called The Life We Live, anthology 1965 to 2000. Has all their albums plus a whole bunch of demos and live stuff. 11 CDs.
Holy cow!
Here's the problem with it. I don't want to open it here because it'll probably wreck something. But it comes with a 200 and something page booklet.
Hey, John, right?
Yeah. It comes with a 200 and something page hardcover book, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
But then the CDs come in a small CD box, which is not fastened to anything. So
you hear it.
You can hear it. I don't. Yeah. You can hear it. You can hear it moving around when you. I mean, not that you're going to be carrying it a lot, but that's kind of. I mean, they could have put a foam. They could have put a foam holder and had the box in there. Wouldn't have
all that they put into it. Yeah.
And unless somehow mine didn't, unless it's supposed to have one and mine didn't have it, but I don't think so. I'll have to ask other people who got it if it had a foam holder. But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that the smaller box is just rolling around in there. But what are you going to do? It's still great music, and the book is amazing. It's on the Pseudonym label.
Pseudonym,
who's done lots of other boxes where they have had better packaging. So I don't know. I guess it's just they wanted to keep the cost down, and the cost was reasonable on this. So maybe that's it.
It's a lot of money to sink into it to just kind of cut corners a little bit,
Yeah, I know. So I'm wondering if maybe mine just was missing that piece.
Could have been the first one off this.
Certainly possible. I know other people who have it, so I'll ask. But anyway, enough about that. We have a special guest today. I have been a big fan of this band, the band that he fronted called Grapefruit. I've been a big fan of theirs ever since I met with a gentleman called Wayne Trieber from when I was living in New York. He lived in Long Island. I don't know if our guest knows him or not, but he knew the guys from Badfinger really well, and he's the first one to ever play me the Ivies album, which at the time, this is the late 70s, was incredibly rare. I mean, it still is, but there are reissues now and everything. Back then, the original was the only way you could get it, and they were rare and very expensive. Anyway, he had a cassette of it, and he let me tape it, which was I think he had. Did he have the real? Anyway, at the very least, he had the music, and he let me tape it. And at the same time, I was looking through his collection, and I saw this album. Well, this is the reissue. I saw this album. I said, that looks pretty cool. Who are they? And he said, oh, this is a great band. And he played me the album. I was like, oh my God, I have to find this. Didn't take long, fortunately, because I'd been to so many record stores in New York by then. But I was just absolutely floored by how good this was. And so that was 1979. So I've been a fan ever since. And this is the new reissue. This is the first vinyl reissue of this album, the first legitimate vinyl reissue. Yep. Record Store Day came out last month. I don't think it actually was a U.S. Record Store Day. I think it's just a Europe one. But this one store in Chicago, Dusty Groove, who are connected to everything, brought it in. So fortunately, I was able to find a copy. And I've also got a couple other things. Over the years on CD, that album Around Grapefruit has been reissued several times, as have these things here. Grapefruit Around the BBC. Yep. Cheeky, huh? Around Grapefruit, Around the BBC. So these are some BBC recordings. And this one, Yesterday's Sunshine, the complete 67, 68
That's one
sessions on who did well, this is a cherry RPM, the late great RPM Records. Anyway, I was so glad about this reissue, and my good friend John Kirby, I knew that he knew this gentleman we're about to introduce. I asked him, can you find out if he would be a guest on our show? And he did. And our guest said, sure, well, I'd be happy to do it. So this is quite an honor for us. Besides the two albums that the band Grapefruit released and these reissues, he has association with the Beatles. He was on Hey Jude, believe it or not. They were one of the first bands, or maybe I think the second band to be signed to Apple Publishing. And if there had been an Apple label around at that time, they certainly would have been on Apple Records. And so there's all of that. John Lennon named the band, the whole bit. He also was part of Tony Rivers and the Castaways.
Awesome. Yeah.
Tony is a good friend. He's not doing well these days, unfortunately, but we love him. And he played on Cliff Richard's records for many years. He's done a lot, and we're really honored to have him. So without further ado, would you please give a huge welcome to Mr. John Perry?
Ta-da!
Yeah, there he is. Beautiful home you have there.
It's great, isn't it? I just wish it was mine.
Oh, no? Whose is it?
I don't know. It's a background. I have no idea. I'm sitting in my office, which is a tip. There's paper.
It's the bathroom. It's the bathroom. It's the loo.
Well, no, don't do that. But it could be. But
that's wonderful. Wow.
When you get to my age, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to be close. But
we're not your age, and we still know what you mean.
Now listen, David. I can see Mark's picture nice and clear, but your one is like different screens, kind of going left to right across. I haven't got a clear picture of you. Is that you or is it me?
You're probably better off.
It might be something. Is that John Kirby's house?
There you are. There you are.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
It might have just cleared up the signal.
It's gone again. It's gone again. What happened?
I don't know. It might be. It's an internet thing. As long as you can see me, I'm the better looking one of the two. That's all that really matters,
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
How you feeling tonight, Mr. Perry? Nice to meet you. I'm Mark Hershberger, Pop Detective Records. Always, when David told me you're going to be a guest, of course, as a fan of Grapefruit myself, I hit the roof. So thank you again for being here. This is an honor. It's wonderful. Thank you.
I'm glad you like the stuff. Glad you like the music.
Oh indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm amazed that it's still selling, frankly, but there you are.
Yeah,
me and Peter Sweatnam are the only ones still alive out of the band. and he rings me up occasionally. We go to dinner, we go to lunch occasionally, our wives, together. And he said, "Oh, we've had another offer. They want, another company wants to put the Grapefruit albums out." I go, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." So they just keep on coming. So amazing. Which is why,
yeah, go ahead.
Why I did Grapefruit segments, because I thought, well, if there's interest in Grapefruit, let's try and carry on as though Grapefruit. In fact, I did a gig with Pete and Jeff while he was still with us. Bless him. It was my party, my 70th party, and Tony Rivers came, and a few friends, and Terry Britton came, and we did Grapefruit reformed with a few other people, 3 of us, and we did about 4 songs, Round Going Round, Elevator, stuff like that. And I'm glad we did that, because soon after that, Jeff, was taken from us, and I was really upset, because I was just getting to know him again, and it's such a shame that he got taken.
Are you hearing me, David?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is.
Keep going. I'm having audio. Go ahead.
That is very much a shame. John, were you part of? You may or may not know this, but I run a music festival called International Pop Overthrow, and we're actually about to be at the Cavern for our 20th year. But in 2003, I think, Tony Rivers put together a version of Tony Rivers and the Castaways / Harmony Grass at the Cavern. Were you part of that?
No, I wasn't. I do remember hearing talk of it, but I think at the time, it's a long way to go and all the rest of it. So I just didn't get to it. So that's it.
Well, that was.
We did sing at the original Cavern back in the day. Yeah. I remember I remember it distinctly. I was a lot younger, and obviously, and we're pulling up down a cobblestone street in the back streets of Liverpool in a dark alleyway, and this is the back of the Cavern Club, right? And in the headlights are 2 guys beating 7 bells of what's it out of each other, and I said, "I'm not getting out of this truck." Look what he said, "John, this is the Cavern. Welcome to Liverpool." And,
that sounds about right. There's still people beating each other. No, there aren't. Not really. But yeah, I saw Tony Rivers and the Castaways on the Wall of Fame. So I knew right then that you had obviously played there.
Yes, of course. Yeah. No, amazing place. The only place where the dressing room's bigger than the stage.
That was true. That was true at one point. Not anymore.
Well, they moved it, didn't they? They moved it. I mean, the front. It's got 2 stages now. The front stage looks very much like the original stage. Right.
It's got the arches. In fact, it used several of the original bricks, so it's very authentic. But the dressing room is smaller than the stage now. Now the backstage is a bigger room with a much bigger stage, and it looks really nice, much more modern looking. So people have a choice of playing on either of those stages, or they can play on both, I suppose. But it's really an amazing place, and I'm really glad that you guys were a part of that. How did you and Tony meet?
Right, so I was in a band called the Sugar Beats going back when I was like 12 at Hornchurch Grammar School, and that was me and Kenny Gold, who later worked with me and Tony as a vocal backing group, but getting ahead of myself there. So back up. So school band, used to win talent contests. There was us and another band whose name I can't remember, but they were like the Rolling Stones, smelly and long hair and greasy hair, and doing R&B. And we wore the jackets, and we're quite neat, and we sang harmonies. And so either we would win the talent contest, or the Rolling Stones lookalike would win the. I thought they were scary personally, but there you go. But and the first prize was a voucher for a tambourine in the local music store. With the money you won, you could go and buy yourself a damn tambourine up there. So it's great. And so the big local band at the time was Tony, the Professional was Tony Rivers and the Castaways, and they lived in Upminster, which is about 10 mile away from where we were. We were in Hornchurch. Get your maps out of England and have a look at Essex, all right? And I'll educate you on Essex. But and so we did that, and I went on to join a band called Dave and the Strollers, who had a guy from the Tremolos playing lead guitar, and that was sort of semi-pro. We used to go down to Cornwall on the weekends and get back about 5 a.m. on a Monday morning, and then I had to go to work after that and get up, be in London for 9 a.m. It was like, but anyway, so we did all that, and then that came to an end for some reason I can't remember, and I got a phone call from Jeff, I think, saying, "Hey John, Tony Rivers is looking for another singer, and I'll put your name forward. Can you come and do an audition?" Very nice of him. So I went along, and we got the guitars out, and Tony said, "Oh look, just sing along." So I just threw in some harmonies that because I love harmony. I can't help harmony. I just do it, And he said to me, he said that's great. He said, "How do you know how to sing a 6 and a 9th?" I said, "Oh, is that what they were?" I had no idea what I was doing. I could just do it, So John Perry, great. Is that who I am? Okay. And so I got in the band. That's how I got in the band, because I could sing a 6th and a 9th, I guess. And I joined as a lead guitarist, and I'm not the best lead guitarist, but good enough for the Beach Boys. Right. All that stuff, So
you speaking of the Beach Boys, you guys did wonderful versions of God Only Knows and Girl Don't Tell Me.
Well, I saw the Beach Boys years and years ago, before Brian and the later Beach Boys, where they had all the session guys in. But I saw them originally, and to be honest with you, listen, and I'm a fan. I sat and I thought, do you know what? We're better than they are.
Wow.
don't tell them I said so, will you? I know you're up the road from them, aren't you? You're living in LA. But
hello, Brian.
Yeah. Hey, Brion.
Listen
this guy. We got this punk on the program. Thinks he's better than you. But it was crazy. And but we did, and we rehearsed Tony's a stickler for rehearsing. And we would rehearse for hours to get everything spot on. The vocals were amazing, and in some respects, I always wanted to be a sort of underground guitar player, with a billy billy and all that, But I really wasn't that, and I sort of felt a little bit embarrassed about being in this very straight, in my perception, band with the harmonies and all that. But then we were in Manchester one time. We were staying in one of these boarding places with one of these heavy, biddly biddly wee bands, But you see, the one thing we could do that they couldn't do is we could sing round one guitar without any amplifiers and blow them all. And we used to do that. So I said, "Come on, let's do Graduation Day." He goes, "So there's a time for joy, a time for and we do that, and they'll go, the jaws would hit the mat. They go, "That's fucking amazing." Excuse me,
that's okay. You can say whatever you want.
You can be yourself. But so all that.
That's how. Now, when you were young, what started you in music? Did you have musical parents?
My dad was a drummer. He was in the Royal Navy, and he played drums in a band called the High Seas. Apostrophe S, right? And talk about corny, but and he went into engineering, so he didn't develop it, but he used to love to drive the van. In the Sugar Beats, he drove the van, right? And because he had a couple of pints, didn't he, when he got there? So
I wanted to show that.
He loved it.
Oh yeah.
But so sorry, I've forgotten the question now.
What started you off in music? So you had a dad that was a drummer. What got you going? What lit your fire? Was it like late 50s rock and roll? The Beatles obviously were an influence, but what made you pick something up to learn? Piano, guitar?
Well, I did 4 years of piano training, so I must have had some. I must have loved to do it. I went to classical guitar lesson, piano lesson, all that stuff, you know. And then Dave Brubeck put out Take 5, and I said to the piano teacher, "Can we learn Take 5?" She said, "No, we only do classical here." So I was gone. That was me gone. I thought, well, I'm bored with that. You know, I can't. It's too straight. So yeah, and the guitar, the first guitar, I think I picked up for 10 quid. The strings are about 6 inches off the fretboard, and but people moan about that. But you know, if you can play one of them really crappy guitars, you can play anything.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and so that was my sort of train. What made me start to do it? I don't. You know, I honestly don't remember anything in particular, but I couldn't not do it. You know, I just had to do it. I was surrounded. The guys from the Sugar Beats were all local. There was a guy called John Weeks, who's a really good guitarist. Well, as I perceived it at the time, and also in the music shop I was talking to you about. You go up there on a Saturday afternoon, it's full of musos, all playing guitars and doing all their licks, you know. And you go over and say, "How'd you do that?" You know, and they go, "Oh, it's easy," and pick up stuff from just sitting around, you know. Yeah. And Bert Whedon, Playing a Day. Remember that book?
Oh yeah.
Which one?
Playing a Day, Bert Whedon. I mean, that's got to be the biggest lie under the sun, you know. Because, but it got you buying the book, you know. So and it was great. I mean, it got you going for sure, you know.
Got you got your basics.
Sorry.
You got you the basics, and then you could experiment after that. Yeah,
but I'm still pretty basic, to be honest. So I haven't really moved on much from there.
Well, you got away with a lot, didn't you?
You know, don't tell anyone, for crying out loud.
How did I get here?
I know.
I just look at John. I look at some of the songs that you guys did on this collection. Some really big favorites of mine, like Summer Dreaming, which Harmony Grass eventually did. Charade, which I love.
Oh yeah.
Your version of Turn of the Century that the Bee Gees also did. Baby, What You Want Me to Do is very, very cool. I'm trying to find my favorite here. Well, I Can Guarantee You Love and Pantomime. I really love.
I can guarantee you love.
Yeah,
I still. That's cool.
So, what happened? What happened to cause the band to break up?
Which band? Tony Rivers?
Yeah.
Well, there's that awful Grapefruit band came along, didn't they?
Oh, is that how it happened? Okay.
Yeah. It's probably. I hope Tony's not listening, but yeah. Well, he knows anyway. But I mean, shall I tell you about Grapefruit? How that started, or?
Yeah.
By all means.
Well, basically, with Tony, there were two front singers. There was Tony and a guy called Kenny Rowe, his name was. And Kenny Rowe had a Mini, right? Back in the 60s, you got to have a Mini. And he used to get on the weekends we weren't working, he'd go clubbing. And he liked to go with somebody. So he'd ring me up. Say, "Hey, John, going up London on Saturday. You want to come?" "Oh, yeah. So he'd pick me up at whatever time. And we'd go up there and we'd go to sometimes the Speakeasy, the Cromwellian Club, which was kind of a cross between a disco and a gambling casino and a restaurant. It was sort of a one-stop shop for whatever debauchery you had in mind, you know. and what was the other one? Famous one. God, yeah. No, it's not coming to me. Anyway, there were three main clubs we went to, and he would go up with his 20 quid, 50 quid, whatever, to gamble. I'm not a gambler. If I put money on anything, it generally dies at the gate. So I don't.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't bother with that. And but he would go off, and I just hang around. And at the Speakeasy one night, there was this mad Liverpudlian at the bar. I'd never seen him before in my life, and his name was Terry Doran, and he was an absolute lunatic, and so was I. So we got on like house on fire, and we just had a uproarious night. And he said, you know, but I said, "What do you do?" He asked me what I did, so I told him, Tony was the Castaways, up and down England, which we were working in we were one of the top bands in all the universities across the country. And now there's a scene in itself, right? You've never seen so much booze in your entire life. And they used to have crates of cheap champagne all around the dressing rooms. If the bands could actually walk on stage after half an hour in there, you're doing well, you know. But yeah, it's crazy. But and regularly bumping into Cream at Watford Gap on the M1 motorway, and Zoot Money was a big favourite. Long John Baldry, you know, he was all over the place. And so I met Terry Doran. Getting back to the point, I met Terry Doran, and Terry was mad, as I said. And I said, "What do you do?" He says, "I run Apple Publishing," in Liverpool accent, which I haven't got yet. I run Apple Publishing. So I thought, Apple, it sounds like a fruit store or something. You know, what's that? You know, so, and because all the publishing companies had names like teams of solicitors. You know, Campbell Connelly and Matthew McDonald and Son and all that. And so Apple Publishing is like, what? Is it a joke or what? So, and because it's just started, nobody knew, you know. And so at the end of the evening, he gave me his card. He said, you know, if you got to come up and play me your songs, you know. So I, like you do, I mean, I don't take much notice of what happens in pubs and clubs. I just stick it to one side and got on with my life, you know. And did a few other things, and then I had nothing much going on. So I thought, what's happened to that card? Where's that Terry bloke? Let's go and see him. So I got a cassette together of my songs, and went up to Baker Street, and went up above the Apple shop in Baker Street, and there's this office. Everything is white. The couch is white, the carpet's white, the walls are white. He had clothes on, so he they're different colour. He didn't have a white suit, thankfully. But that was noticeably white. A lot of white going on. Did I say white? And,
I believe you mentioned white. Yeah.
Did I mention white? Okay. Just make sure you got that. And so we sat down, and you know, we got chatting, and what a great night it was, and all the rest of it. And he started playing my songs, and you know, sort of looking a bit like, anyway, he didn't like them much, and so we were kind of coming to they died of death, and we're getting to the end of the conversation, and I was sort of a bit burdened. I had this idea in my head, because the Beatles, I'd always loved the four mop tops, always. I'd loved the haircuts and the way they did it, and the harmonies, and I just loved the sort of young, innocent thing of it. You know, it was just great, you know, energy as well. And I said to him, you know, I think there's a gap in the market for a band that is like Four Mop Tops, right, revisited, because now they got long hair and beards and pot smoking and all the weird stuff, you know, and acid. And you know, the Four Mop Tops are dead, you know, but I think people still interested in it. And he went, He said, that's a good idea. And so he said, let me play you some songs from one of our writers. So he put on some George Alexander songs. And it was obviously straight away, I mean, they're classy stuff, you know. And I said, oh, he's good, man. Yeah, he's really good. So he said, well, have you got any mates, you know, any friends? I said, I've got one or two, you know. No, in music, you know. So he said, and I thought of Jeff and Pete, you know. So, I mean, Jeff had rung me up to sit for Tony was in the customer. So I rang him up for Grapefruit, and I said, "Yeah, Jeff, I met this madman up in London who's wanting us to form a band and be like the Beatles." And he going, "Yeah, right." He thinks I'm having a laugh. He said, "Well, the thing is, we're going to have. He wants to have a meeting in Baker Street." He's going like, "Really?" I was going, "Yeah, really." He said, "And do you want to meet him and ask him all those questions? You know, like, are you having a laugh or what? You know." And so we went with three of them, me, Jeff, and Pete, went up to Baker Street, and we had a long chat with Terry, and who reaffirmed the fact that he was interested, and blah blah blah, and that was the start of it. And of course, Jeff and Pete were still members of the Castaways. Now, I don't think that was the end of Tony Roos and the Castaways. I think that I don't know what happened to Tony Roos and the Castaways at that point. To be honest, I can't imagine that he'd just get another drummer and guitar. As far as I could see, but I don't know, to be honest. But I don't think that helped. Just put it that way. Hey, David, you've gone back to your multi-screen thing. You leaned forward or something, and it all cleared up. And then as soon as you did something else, it all went back again. I can't speak to you because I can't see you.
No, weird. Very strange.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
as long as I look good.
Just pretend I'm here. People do that all the time.
You think about hands, they're disappearing, aren't they?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? I love it. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
So at this point, well, what happens next? I mean, are you signed to Apple Publishing before the Beatles get involved, or after?
Well, getting signed to Apple Publishing would necessarily include the Beatles, although Terry was the director or whatever, MD or whatever of Apple Publishing. He would still run it past the boys before, he signed anything like that. But the thing is, we never had a contract. Terry said, "I don't want to. Let's not sign a contract." He said, "If any of us get fed up with doing it, we'll just pack it up, right?" And I thought, yeah, it's fine with me. And so that was our loose arrangement, but they did sink a lot of money into it. So they were obviously committed to it. And they then got us signed up to NEMS Enterprises. We had to go and meet a guy called Martin Wesson, who was Brian Epstein's money man, who asked us, "How much money do you want for wages?"
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times do you get that in your life,
No.
So, yeah. So I think I was very silly in those days. So I think I asked for something like 15 quid or something. So how dumb am I? But there you go. But so
that's why they asked that question. They hope you asked for a lot less than they were ready to offer.
Do you know what? If I'd have been as wise as you are, then mate, we would probably ask for more. But there you go. And NEMS took us on, and then we started gigging and going around the country, and in fact a lot abroad as well, really abroad, like South America and places like that. Yeah, we did TV shows in Italy and all kinds of crazy stuff that went on for a couple of years. Yeah.
So this was so when you signed your publishing deal, you got signed with NEMS. When did the name Grapefruit come about?
Well, I think we needed a name, and Terry was on the phone to John, and he said, "Hey, John." And John said, "Hey, Terry, I'm trying to do Liverpool here, right?" Yes, I don't get out much, so I have to entertain myself. But, so we're looking for the name, John, and it just so happened that Yoko Ono was writing a book called Grapefruit. He said, "Call him Grapefruit." And so that was how we got the name.
And
what did you think when you first heard it?
Yeah, I was going to say, you were good with it or what?
To be honest, I don't think I thought anything much about it. I wasn't thrilled or disgusted. It was just John Lennon thought it must be good.
So if John Lennon would have said panty liners, you would have been okay with the panty liners.
Absolutely fine. I quite like panty liners personally. Depends who's wearing them, of course. But
I love the name Grapefruit. I think it's a great name. I mean, as far as a pop psych kind of group, that's a great name.
And of course, if you were what was his name? A famous DJ, and he said the group with appeal, right? And something about give you the pip or something like that. There was a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
of course.
That's great. Great fun.
Let's cut this album into sections here and talk about it, right?
Exactly that. Well, that's why I called my project Grapefruit Segments.
Because, segments, yeah.
In fact, it should have been Grapefruit Segments, although Jeff did come down. I wanted him to play drums on it while he was still with us, and he came down, but he didn't really listen to it. So what he played was crap. I couldn't use it. And then he later apologized. "I'm really sorry, John. I shouldn't listen to that before I came down." Because when we did the live thing, he was a great drummer. He really was a very good drummer. Because he arranged his drum parts. He wasn't just like a ticking clock with a few dots, to bring it in. He would and he'd like arrange things, to fit the song. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And when we did the live thing, I really appreciated him more probably than I did when I worked with him, But
so you're signed and you're playing as Grapefruit. What are you playing in the beginning? What music are you playing?
Yeah, the stuff that George wrote that we recorded on Around Grapefruit. So a lot of that sort of stuff, as I recall. You should have Pete Swetnam on here as well, because he remembers things I don't remember, and I remember things, So you should get. He's the other half of my brain cell.
Speaking of things you don't remember, well, not you in particular, but the first band I believe who were signed to Apple Publishing was Focal Point, and I don't know if you knew those guys, but one of them had been keeping a diary all those years, and
Wow.
He wrote a book about 15 years ago or so. And it's amazing. It's amazing the detail that was in there. I mean, he had to have written it down. But apparently, what it initially happened was they actually ran into Paul McCartney in a park, and they had a demo tape on them, and they gave it to him.
Yeah,
he played it. He really liked them, and he said, "You guys should come down to Apple." We should meet and talk about this stuff. And apparently at that age, they thought it was cool, meaning hip, if they didn't go down and meet, that if they stood him up.
Yeah, man, and we're cool. We're really cool.
They said they regretted that ever since. And so they didn't get their deal. They ended up putting out a few singles on Durham, I believe. But they never did get an album deal. Finally, their music was reissued. And they actually did play my festival at the Cavern about 15 years ago. So it was great to meet them. But can you imagine?
How were they, Dave?
Oh, no, they were really good.
Okay.
They were in their...
You're going to say they were rubbish.
No, they weren't rubbish. They were really nice people. And,
I mean, can you help me out with the logic here? So you give your demo to Paul McCartney, and then you turn him down once he's accepted you. I mean, what was the point? In fact,
they were in their early 20s. They were arrogant. They thought, we'll get a deal anyway. We don't need you. We're focal point.
It was that period's woke generation, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've known of other bands who were told, if you get invited to a label meeting, don't go. They'll respect you more. And they actually believed it and didn't go, and they missed out on deals.
And the guy who told him went in with his band and got the deal, right?
Yeah, that's probably what he should. Probably. But anyway, so at this point, there's no Apple Records yet. So you guys are.
No. We were signed. Believe we were signed to RCA.
Yeah, did Terry get you that deal?
I guess.
Probably
yeah,
Terry. Yeah.
He was our manager, so I guess it was him. Yeah.
And so you must have been thrilled about that, I imagine. No, we're going to stand up, RCA. You're
asking me to rejig emotions from about 50 years ago. So
yeah, please do that.
Yeah, let's have some of that. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we were. I can tell you about our first session. The first session we ever did and we hadn't really had much rehearsal. We were recording a potential single, which was Dear Delilah. Mm-hmm. And we went into IBC Studios, which is in Portland Place, which is just in the middle of London, just up from BBC House or whatever it's called.
Okay.
In those days, and you go past the BBC, and in fact the speakeasy is just before the bit on the right side. So you're getting to know London now, right? So just up Portland Place on the left-hand side, downstairs, IBC Studios. Wonderful studio. Bee Gees used to record there all the time, and they got this huge room, and we were set up in the middle of this room, and we felt very small, and all these luminaries. We got Terry Melcher producing us, who, doesn't come, unannounced, as it were. I mean, he's produced the Byrds, right? And, he's done a lot of stuff, and he's Doris Day's son. And so he's up in the box, and we hadn't even met him, I don't think. And then as the night goes on, more and more people are coming in because this is the cool session to be in. And there's John and Paul standing there, and we're thinking, oh my God. So how does it go, George? A minor, John. I'm okay. He's done. So we're having, it's embarrassing, and George came from a different end of the business to I told you before that Tony Rivers rehearsed like everything down to the nth degree, whereas George came from what they call the blowing and extemporizing end of the business, where the guy can play. He's a sax player, George, basically, and he could play the sax fantastic. You give him, this is the song, George, E, A, and B7, and he just happily blow away all night without any arrangement on it. He could just do it, like that. Well, we weren't those people. We weren't that. We know. And so we had to, so E, how many bar? 8 bar, right? Then A, a bit painful, I guess, but there you go. And so we hadn't had any rehearsal, so it was kiss of death for us. But anyway, we got through it, and we made a record, and it's okay. We got away with it. And then on future sessions, Beatles would turn up, at sessions. George would turn up and want to mess around with the drums because Ringo was into putting cloths on his kit. So George would come in and, should we try putting cloths on the kit? It's like, okay then. And on one session, Paul was playing John there was a piano down one end. This is a much smaller studio now. We're in, where are we? St. Anne, up past Maida Vale, Lancaster Gate, up there somewhere, going down towards, going north, south, west. There you go. And a studio down off Ladbroke Grove. Anyway, a little tiny, quite a small studio. And George and John and Paul were there, not at the same time as George. George came separate on his own. And I think we were doing maybe Lullaby or something. I'll sing a lullaby or something like that. We say, which is why George got signed to Apple in the first place, because John Lennon loved Lullaby. Because it sounded like John Lennon, basically. Yep. That's why he liked it.
Kinda. Were you aware that Lullaby has shown up on certain bootlegs as an unreleased Beatles song?
No, unreleased Beatles song.
Yeah, it's not recently, but
wow.
I'm trying to think. Maybe about between 20 and 30 years ago, there were bootlegs of songs that were rumored to have been the Beatles, and one was the Fa King, F-U-H,
that was a B-side of George Harrison, the King of Fa. The King of Fa.
King of Fa, right.
And they called it the
Brute Force. Right. And another one was Lullaby. And
really?
for a while, people who didn't know Grapefruit did think that Lullaby was an unreleased Beatles song.
Yeah.
I kind of hear where they're coming from. I think you sound a little bit more like John and Paul together, but maybe the voices could have been overdubbed to create just one, so people would say, "Yeah, that's John and Paul just on top of each other." So to speak.
Well, they used to do that, didn't they, as well? So
yeah. But yeah, people did think that.
Yeah.
Now so you've got that going for you now.
Well, I tried to re-record Lullaby myself, with just loading it up into the computer and messing around with it, but didn't sound terribly convincing. But I might have another look at that actually, because it is a great song. Yeah, I might have another look at that.
There are a lot of amazing songs on the
album. Have you listened to my Grapefruit segments thing yet?
I have not yet.
Well, I'm going to tell you off, all right, David? I'm going to bash you, all right? David Bash, all right? So you get your ears around that Grapefruit segments and tell me what you think, all right?
Is it on YouTube?
Oh, that's a good question. No, it's not, and I should attend to that because I do have other stuff on YouTube. But no, it's on the heartrecords.org website.
Okay, I'll find it.
And you go up there, and if you go on to MP3 downloads, you can audition. There's a little play thing there. You can just press play, and it gives you about half the track, basically.
And it's heartrecords.com?
.org.
.org. Okay.
Yeah, I did that just to fool you.
Yeah. Oh,
but no one can find it.
I'll definitely check it out. No, I mean,
there it is. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It actually is a real website.
This album has. I mean, this album has.
Maybe not for much longer, actually, because it costs a fortune.
I can't think of one song on here, that's a dud track. They're all wonderful, and they're all very different from each other in many ways.
Which album is this?
This is Around Grapefruit.
Around Grapefruit. I can't see it because you're a multi-screen.
Oh, really?
So you're holding the things up, and I'm seeing about 20 of them, but none of them
well,
really. Hey, no, you just moved to the right now. What's going on?
Oh yeah, well, Mark moved me over.
I'm moving him. I'm on the East Coast. He's on the West Coast. I can still move him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So where you're in New York?
I'm just outside of Philadelphia in South Jersey.
Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah. And David's out.
Are you aware of Detroit pizzas?
Detroit pizzas.
Yeah, they're quite thick places. No,
we don't. We only eat New York.
That's like Chicago. Maybe you're talking about Chicago deep dish.
Deep dish pizza.
Well, it sounds the same, but it's actually called Detroit. My son runs a company from my kitchen called Detroit Pizzas. Yeah, and
never heard of it.
I was just eating one. Oh, well, write it down. John Perry from England says in my country there's a thing called Detroit. The reason they're called Detroit pizzas is because the metal dish they're made in were used to be for old nuts and bolts off the cars in the car factories, and they clean them up, use them, and they slant all the way around. And it's slightly slanted base with an amazing topping on.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this Shinola watch, which was made in Detroit, maybe it has some of the pieces also. I don't know.
You know what?
Well, if they have it in Liverpool, we're going to be there in a couple of weeks. So,
couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean the festival starts. We start on May 26th and go through June 2nd.
Yeah.
May 26th, June 2nd. Okay. Yeah. I've got my son coming over from Australia. Who we haven't seen in quite a while, so I've got to be around for that. But
how many children do you have that you know of?
I'm a rock and roll star.
Right.
I'm a rock and roll star. Oh.
He gets out his book. He's like, wait a minute, let's check.
That reminds me of a Cheech and Chong album. How many children do you have? Children everywhere. Oh, you are a rock and roll star. No. So I got 4. Legitimately.
All boys?
We got 3 boys, 1 girl.
That's same with me. But no, I don't have kids, but I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm glad you explained that.
Me too. I was worried.
Getting into the weird category there. But so he's coming over from Perth, Australia. He was going to surprise us, but the thing is, if he turned up at our door and not warned us he was coming, he'd be in for a surprise because there'd be nowhere to sleep. So we're going to rearrange the house. I know. I might move into this place. Actually, I love the piano.
This looks really nice. So
you should do. Yeah,
you should go for it.
That sounds like that looks like my style.
Did any of your kids go into music?
Strangely, no. My son, who's here at the moment, my youngest Jack, he's got a nice Fender acoustic which we bought down in Brighton, big shop called GAC in Brighton, guitar, amp and keyboard center, and so he strums a bit, and not bad. He's a good strummer, good player, but never really wanted to go further into it. But I keep telling him where he's got a great sense of humor. And I said, mate, you're stand-up. You are a stand-up comedian. And because his name's Jack Perry. I mean, I always, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Perry from Las Vegas. It's perfect, isn't it? All he's got to do is get the act together, but he won't do it. He won't take my advice.
He just has to get an act together. That's it.
Just that small thing. Yeah, and stand up in front of people.
Yeah, that's tough.
So is it true that you sang on Hey Jude?
Well, yes, it is. So the story there is that about once a month, I used to go out on what I call a strafing run, just to let off steam, go down Wardour Street. It generally started off in a pub called The Ship. If you've had any more other Brit musicians from that time on your show, you probably heard of The Ship in Wardour Street. It's quite well known. And the night used to start there, and I bumped into people like Keith Moon there and all kinds of, and there was a Jack Barry's bar, which was about not 2 blocks, but let's say a block down and up some stairs, and he was up the top of up some stairs, and that was Jack Barry's bar, who used to run the Marquee. He was the owner of the Marquee Club, and I mean all kinds of famous people hang around. I mean, Rod Stewart was a big favourite. You know, he loved that place. Apparently, port and brandy he used to drink. Woo, good evening, and Long John Baldry and all these people. But and so this particular night, I'm sitting in the ship, and there was really nothing going on, and I'm getting really bored. I'm on my second pint and getting like depressed. You know, I thought, no, this is no good. So, and I suddenly remembered that somebody had said the boys are recording in in St Anne's Court. I'm trying to name the studio, it's not coming to me, but Trident Studios in St Anne's Court. And St Anne's Court was literally, you come out of the door of the pub, turn right, and it's a little alleyway on the right hand side. I thought, I could gate crash a session. What's the worst that can happen? They'll just throw me out. I mean, or they'll say no. I mean, that's the worst. That's fine. I'm prepared to accept the rejection. You know, we'll see. So I went round and knocked on the door, and Mal Evans opened the door. Now, I really like Mal Evans, and he liked me because he's a lovely bloke. He was a big bloke with a very high voice. But you wouldn't tell him that because he'd put you through the wall. But I don't think he would, actually. He's a lovely fellow. But and we got on well. He said, "Hey, oh John, hey, the boys are recording." As if I didn't know. The boys are recording. You want to come in? And I went, "Wow, do I want to come in?" Yes. So, boom. So I was in, and I was there pretty much the whole night, sitting around, getting in various shades of disarray, one way and another, and then they were downstairs. Doing all the remember, and they go like Drifters R's. That's what they were copying, the Drifters at that point. And
I see that.
Yeah, see, that's what they were doing. And so I'm just sitting there watching them and pinching myself, thinking, am I really here, or is this a dream, or whatever? And I was really there, and Paul. Right, so I'm leaning against the wall in front, about 10 yards away from me, is the mic, the old Neumann U87 stuck up with some screens around it, with the 4 Beatles around it singing, all that bit. And John's doing a 2-part to Paul's lead vocal. And as they get sort of through the song, they come into the better bit, which is the last verse before you get into the no, right? And Paul looks in my direction. He does this like that, and I'm going, "Who's he talking to?" I'm leaning against the wall, right? I thought, it must be me then. So I got up and I thought, what does he want? So I'm walking. He's calling me forward, and then he points to some headphones on the ground. And I'm thinking, I didn't think anything. I just like, what is happening? So I put the headphones on. They were deafening. And I went, fuck, because I'm Dagenham, and that's we talk in Dagenham. We used to anyway. And they were bloody, and then looking up at the box, because we were downstairs, the box was upstairs, a bit like Abbey Road, number 2, very similar. Stairs going up, like a box up the top. And I look at the box again. Turn them down. So they turn them down to tolerable level, And then I walked over he called me over, and I'm standing round a mic with, John, Paul, John Perry, George, and Ringo. It's like, what? And I still don't know why I'm there. And then we get to the better, wow, right? And then he goes, no. So I'm singing no, right, with the boys. And that was the first layer of that, and I was so nervous. I was singing sharp, I'm sure I was, and I found out later. Somebody pointed out that there was these 2 swear words on this Beatles record. I'm saying, well, you're joking. And I said, where is it? So I didn't even notice it. And then somebody played it back. It's just before the third verse, before the better. Just before you get there, I wrote it down once where it was. I can't remember. But the fucking hell is still there. I mean, much to my shame or glory, depending on how you think about it. There's my deleted. They weren't even deleted. What do they call it? Deleted. Anyway, expletives. There you go.
Oh, right.
Expletives. Yeah.
All my expletives in full glory on a beat.
Wow, I've never noticed that before. Now I'm gonna have to look for it.
Oh boy, you haven't lived, David. Come on.
No, well,
John. Although I do like your hat. Sorry,
John. Do you? I mean, that's an amazing moment. I mean, you've been able to describe that. How nervous you were, but all these years later, can you still feel that moment very realistically in your head? Can you see it all? Can you? We talk nostalgia all the time, David and I, and there are things that can kick me off, and I can almost smell. 45 years ago, 50 years, I can almost smell the area I'm remembering.
Yeah.
Is that memory that good for you?
Well, it is very clear. Yeah, it is very clear.
It sounds like it from the way you described it. Yeah.
I mean, well, if I didn't really cotton on as to how kind of major that was until much later on. And the funny thing is that I became a Christian somewhere along the way, which is why I don't swear too much these days. But and I used to give my testimony. I go and sing a few tunes and tell them the story, And of course, the one story I couldn't tell them was the best one because it had fucking hell in it. I couldn't be standing in church effing and jeffing, or from the pulpit. It didn't seem to be appropriate somehow. So I went out with two friends of mine, a band called Phil and John, who were like two guitarists. They were funny comedian, and they sing and then they tell gags and stuff. Christians. And we were touring together in America, strangely. I think we were in Denny's Diner one day.
Yeah.
I love Denny's Diner. And then something came up in conversation. I said, well, I sang with them back in the... They looked at me, what? You sang... What are you talking about? I said, well, I was on Hey Jude. He said, you're joking. I said, no, I was on Hey Jude. I said... And I told them the fucking hell story. And they fell off. Their jaws hit the table. And they fell off the chairs and went, you are... Correct, you out of your mind, really? And of course, after this is another weird thing about that was that I managed to come away with a 4-inch, I think it was 4-inch reel of the song of Hey Jude, the mix off the desk. I said tonight to someone, the meeting I was at before I came to this, I said, I had to apologize. I said, I'm really sorry. I love you. I said, I got a fast mouth and a no brain, which is a dangerous conversation, dangerous mix. And it was one of those. So, and I've forgotten what I was trying to say now. I've gone.
Were you trying to say that you no longer have the tape or you still have it?
No, no, I wish I did. I haven't. No, but I went back.
He would actually be living.
If you had that tape, you could live in this house right now.
Where is that bloody tape? I do wonder what happened to it. But the night.
Hell.
Yeah.
Precisely my point. It's so well said as well. But I remember. I don't know how the guy gave me that. Because I've done a bit of research into this, and there's a guy called Malcolm Toft who used to be the main engineer at that studio, Trident Studio, and he made the desks. He actually designed Trident desks, which are still huge today. People still spend 60 grand on one of his desks. Wow. He lives in Devon or Cornwall somewhere down there, and he was a friend of a bass player friend of mine, and I got in contact with him about. Because if I could get the PPL on singing on Hey Jude, I could buy this house.
Yeah.
And but you got to prove it. You have to prove it. You can't just say I sang and I go, all right, here's money. You have to prove it. And there's only like one person left alive, and you have to have two witnesses anyway. You can't, even if Paul McCartney. I think if Paul McCartney said he was there, probably I'd get away with it. But
might be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, probably be all right.
Ringo would know.
Oh, Ringo, of course. Yeah, there is two. Yeah, but yeah, Ringo was never a big fan of mine. I don't think.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, no, I got on with John, Paul, and George, but I think Ringo. I think I mean, maybe it was me personally, but bigger than that, I don't think he was. I think Apple wasted a lot of money, and I think it annoyed him probably because Lennon was a fruitcake. and Paul was idealistic, you know, and George, you know, was easy roller, really nice guy actually. You know, so I can see how it would work with those three. But Ringo's a bit more down to earth, I think, and a bit more of a realist, you know, and I think probably struggled with Apple all the way down the line. And so we were just one of the bands that were wasting their money. Possibly. I don't know. Possibly. I don't know. You'd have to ask him that, you know.
Well, it is unfortunate that timing that Around Grapefruit wasn't on Apple. And obviously the album didn't sell millions, which I wish it had. So then you record Deep Water, which is a complete departure from this sound. I mean, we're talking about 1968, 1969, when all kinds of social changes were going on. And you mentioned acid and all that other stuff. Well, that was infiltrating just about every band at that time. And it changed the sound from the pop sound to more of a hard rock, earthy meaning pot, that kind of sound. Was this I mean, were you guys trying to ride the wave of those social changes? Or?
No. What it was, you see, this is where we went wrong, because the band that actually achieved what I thought was what needed to be done for Mop Tops was the Monkees. They actually did it, and they stayed on course. They had good management, and in fact they hardly played when they started. They're actors, weren't they? I know Davy Jones, the lead singer. I used to know him. He was a mate of mine years ago. But they stayed on track as the Monkees. Only much later on did they let their hair down a bit and, you know, start becoming semi hippies. But, you know, they did the TV show. They had, you know, whereas we got so far with it, and one album, and then we thought, you know, we need to be proper musicians. We wanted to be proper musicians, you know. And so we got in a guy called Mick Fowler. That's how it started, on keyboards. He was great, lovely guy, great keyboard player, great guitarist as well, actually, and a singer. And then he had a friend called what was his name? Can you remind me what the lead singer's name was?
Which band?
Of the Deep Water guy.
Oh no, God, I don't remember.
No,
Bob Whale.
Bob Whale, that's him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Bob's great and good guitarist, and with a, you know, more of a manly kind of, you know, he was a bluesy guy, you know.
Yeah. Right.
So he had more of a dare I say butch voice, you know. Yeah. So we were all kind of lightweight pop singers, you know, but he was a bit more gravitas going on there, and and that's what we wanted. And so Pete didn't feel like he wanted to carry on. He said, I'm not that good anyway. He said, and he went into production. He went into studios and worked at Air London for a number of years. So yeah, he did all right. In fact, he produced an album for Ralph McTell back in the day, which me and Tony and Kenny Gold sang on, but backing vocals, you know. But so that was the thought behind that. And there was one funny story there, that Terry Melcher, that he couldn't handle me at all, because I mean I might be a little bit spiky now, but spiky, but back then I was 100,000 times worse. And he was from Los Angeles, right? And everything is like, hey man, and he would play. We had a song called Round Going Round, right? Now Round Going Round, all right. So like round going round in a multicolored hair, now I can fly around the world and all that. So he was. When we were rehearsing that, he's on the piano and he's going round, going round, because he's like, I don't know what he's on, but he's half asleep. and I'm looking at George, and he's looking at me going, I think it should be a bit faster, Terry, you know. So anyway, what he did to me one night is he gave me this tablet, like a petrol filler. It was a huge thing, and he said, hey, try one of them, John. and it's so the world went slow, and that night we had a session in the studio, and I was playing bass on a track called "Come Down to the Station," which is on that album, right? Yeah, and it's quite far. Don't come down the station, I will see what. I mean, it's crazy. And I was on this downer thing. I was hanging. trying to struggle to keep up, you know, can you slow it down? Come down to the station, you know. So that was Terry Melcher. So, but one good thing, he was going out with some famous actress, Hollywood film actress,
Candice Bergen.
Candice Bergen, that's right. And he said, come down to the. You guys got to come to the beach house. So any beach house I'll go to. So we all went down to the beach house, and there we were with him and Candice Bergen sitting around this room, and you know, I can't remember anything else about it, but that we were there. And we were. There was another one. We were in John Phillips' studio, which is where we recorded. Yeah, that one, Deep Water, the whole album. They flew us to Los Angeles to record it. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
No.
Oh, okay, so we were booked to go to John Phillips' studio. Tell me if I'm talking too much, by the way.
No, I love this. Love it.
And so, we had a lot of guests on that album. We had a guy called Sneaky Pete from the Flying Burrito Brothers, played slide on it, and that was on not Round Going Round. Blues in Your Head, that one.
Okay.
Now that's taking me back a bit, crikey. But anyway, so in this studio, and there was a lot of those funny cigarettes knocking around, and a couple of stories. I've always had a love-hate relationship. I didn't really like it, to be honest with you, and I used to get terribly paranoid sometimes, and think, you know, I could lock myself in a corner. You know, I got mates of mine or kids that I know, friends of my son, and they'd say, you know, we're all sitting around having beer, we're all chatting and laughing and all that, and then a joint comes out, and suddenly everyone's like, you know, sitting there all morose and looking around. You think, what's the point? You know, but anyway, so I'm down there and I'm smoking one of these jazz woodbines, and I thought I've got to get some fresh air. So I made my way in, you know, through the studio, saw a door, seemed to be leading out. So I went out and I walked into this little garden area, and there was a tree in it, and it had oranges hanging off it. Now, look, I come from Dagenham in Essex. If you ever want oranges, you go and buy it in a supermarket. It don't hang on a tree. And being in my condition, I thought somebody's winding me up. It could have been Wellington boots hanging off that tree. You know what I mean? It was so weird, and I've never forgotten that.
Did you pick any of them?
Do you know what I should have done? Shouldn't I?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I don't recall. I mean, Los Angeles is the weirdest place on the planet. They say it's the biggest open air lunatic asylum in the world, don't they? But we did have a guy.
I won't argue with that.
But we did have a guy when we were in LA one time, me and the wife, and we were sitting in this hotel having breakfast, and the waiter told us he was sent from God on a mission. And we go, all right, okay, that's great, mate. You know, well, whatever. So, welcome to Los Angeles. But I do like it. For some reason, I like it. I don't know why.
I actually live in Reseda, which is about 20 minutes from there. So I don't live in LA proper, but you're not wrong.
Is that north or south?
It's northwest.
Northwest.
It's in the San Fernando Valley. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we had a sort of bucket list trip just last year where we went to San Francisco. My wife's got a sister who lives in San Francisco, and we stayed with her for a few days, and we had the hire car, but they upgraded us to some the Land Rover Velour or something.
Oh yeah,
amazing car. And so the idea was to drive down the Big Sur, you know, the main road, Pacific Coast Highway, PCH, and go through Big Sur and down to Santa Barbara into, you know, and do that one. And we did. And of course, the road was half in the sea. So
I know it's very windy. It's a little scary driving that road.
Yeah. Well, not for us English, mate. I mean, you want to come to Devon. Right. You come to Cornwall, you want to see small roads.
No, that's true. I've been in Rhyl in North Wales, and those roads. I can't believe. I once had to take a taxi from Liverpool to Rhyl at like 2 a.m, and this driver is going, I don't know, 1,000 miles an hour on these really narrow roads, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna get
Yeah. Have I got time to write my obituary?
Yeah, I know, really.
Well, I drove the Deadbeat Poets on a tour of Scotland, and I drove the van, which is on the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the vehicle.
Oh yeah.
Through those windy Scottish roads, I nearly hit sheep and trucks and trees and
sounds
everything.
like fun.
It was a ball. My fingers still are clutched like this.
Yeah,
But
well,
you're absolutely right.
I get to San Francisco Airport, and the guy behind the desk was Captain Laid Back. He was so relaxed, it was frightening. I just had 9 hours on a plane, whatever. And we got the eyes are like, like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm, I'm thinking, am I fit to drive? Probably not. But anyway, so he said, "Buddy," he said, "this is your lucky day," in an American accent. "This is your lucky day." He
that
said,
sounded more Liverpudlian. Sorry.
Yeah, so the closest I get. So everything goes around.
Everything goes around.
What goes around comes around. But so he says, "We've upgraded your car, right?" Because I ordered whatever it was, and he said, "We got you the Valor, which I did know of it because I got brother-in-law who's got one in England or something. So the Valor, that's right." And so they sent us off down to the garage, and there's not a soul in sight, right? They give you the fob, right? Not even a key.
Right.
It's a fob, right? Now I'm not a rich man, so I have a key on my car. I don't know about you, but I have to do that thing. It says you don't even need a key. You stand there, and if you stand near the vehicle, it opens the door for you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it had more gadgets than a spaceship, this thing. So anyway, I get in it. Never driven it before in my life. There's nobody in the gadget. I just start it. That was a button on the dash. Start. That's
right.
How do you start it?
And then you got to press the clutch down or whatever, the brake pedal or something.
Right.
Start the engine. It's like all these little details, which somebody should be there to tell you this.
That is very true.
But they weren't, And so then I had to drive out on the wrong side of the road. But as opposed to the road being small, this road is huge. Yeah. It's like 6-lane highway with cars whizzing down on my left, right? And we're supposed to go across the Golden Gate Bridge. But, to get to the Golden Gate Bridge, you've got to go to the left and get in the left-hand lane. And I've driven it, and it was an absolute nightmare. I thought, we're all going to die. So we stayed in the right-hand lane, and what was a 20-minute journey to my sister-in-law's place took an hour and a half. And she said, how did you get here? I said, I think we crossed the Bay Bridge. She said, the Bay Bridge? How'd you get there? I said, just keep turning right. You end up.
Oh my God, that's great.
That was that.
If you were going back, if you're going back, what would you do differently with Grapefruit?
Well, I think a couple of things. I don't know forget the drugs for a start, because they are a waste of time, and don't help your mental capabilities at all. But if we'd have stayed on course, if Terry, I'm not blaming Terry because it was what it was, but if we'd have had management that kept us in the yellow suits maybe a bit longer and stayed with the pop thing, I know you want to be serious musicians, but you not changing the band. You develop yourself, get better, and maybe developed us a bit more. We weren't developed. We were just left to carry on in whatever way we wanted to go, which is great. But we'd probably being that young. We were only 19 or something, so we were very young. We're kids, basically, and with too much freedom. And I would have taken it a lot more seriously if I knew now what I knew. If I knew then what I knew now. When
it was happening, you didn't know it was really happening. You were just doing your thing. And now we look at all this in hindsight. We're like, oh, it must have been, and it must have been.
Yeah.
You were just living your life and doing your thing, and then it just, in hindsight now, everything was. Yeah. What we look back on, like, it was amazing.
What you don't see is all the backroom stuff. No one sees. Unless you do a document like the Eagles do a documentary, and then you see, that he hates him and all that stuff. There's all this kind of inner stuff that goes on in a band, and it's probably a really unhealthy thing to do, actually, being a group.
Speaking of unhealthy, how is the groupie scene?
Excuse me, David?
Yeah.
Group?
Well,
What does that mean?
I don't know. I can't
Mark
help you with
doesn't
that one,
know.
John.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
Okay, I don't know what I was thinking.
So you're just digging for a headline, aren't you? I know.
Yes.
Well, you want to hear. This is an unashamed plug. You want to hear my song on the Grapefruit segments? It's called "Cover of the Daily News," and it's all about that. It's all about dancing in a nightclub with a famous woman, and next day you're on the front page of the tabloid. And partly inspired by Cliff Richard, who got turned over by the BBC, and for something he had done, and it put him through hell. And I thought that's really, really bad. And anyway, that's another story.
And that's a good segue, because I was going to ask you, how did you get connected with Cliff?
Yeah, I mean, strange career, really. I've been all over the place, haven't I? But basically, because of Tony Rivers, and when the Castaways, as you said, came to a club, I don't know what happened to them, because I was busy doing Grapefruit, I guess. I don't know what happened. But the next thing I know, we're doing vocal sessions with me and Tony and a guy called Kenny Gold. I don't know if you've heard of Kenny. Oh, yeah. And he lives in America, funnily enough, on the East Coast. So he'll be popping up to see you if you're not careful. Mark.
That's good. That's all good.
Yeah. And
Anytime.
And what am I talking about? Oh, yeah. So we did vocal sessions, and that was after Grapefruit. So I did various things after Grapefruit. I played bass in a soul band for a couple of years. We went all around a band called Hershberger and the Nighttimers, which was a sort of copy of Geno Washington and the Ram Jam.
Oh, yeah.
With an American GI singer and a brass section in the band and all of that. And we went all around Europe. It was fantastic. It was a great time, that was. And then after that, I got a job in a pub. I lasted about a month. Drove me crazy. I couldn't bear it at all. Every night, singing "Knock 3 times."
Oh, really?
On the ceiling, if you will. Oh, no. And so I was out of there, and then the sessions with Tony came up, and one of them was Pickwick Top of the Pops albums, which you may have done.
You're on those too. Okay, I knew Tony had been. So.
Oh yeah. Well, we all were. Me, Tony, and Kenny, and I used to do all the Donny Osmond and Michael Jackson thing, and so anything that was I can't do it anymore. My throat's gone. All that I used to have a really strong low falsetto, but not anymore. And so like Ben and stuff. I remember Ben in particular because we used to live in a semi-detached house, and I was practicing for the session the next day in our bedroom, which obviously was attached to the next door's bedroom, right? And I got headphones on, so I'm going, and I don't know how loud it was. I had headphones on, and we had a rapping on it was next door, and I said, "Can you ask your husband to stop making these strange noises? We're trying to get to sleep." And my wife said, "Oh, sorry, he's got the cans on." Well, we all know what cans are, but when you're not in the business, cans, And the guy said, "We've all got the cans on," and stormed off, So what that was about, I don't know. But there you go. So yeah, so that's how we earned our living for a while, and then one day we got a phone call. Can you do a session for Bruce Welch out of the Shadows at the publishing studio? Ray Waters was the guy in charge, and I can't the name of the publishing company. Quite famous, it's evading me. But anyway, they had a studio, and we went there and we sang for Sue Schifrin, I think it was, backing vocals, and Bruce was producing, and he liked the sound that we made, and he was coming up to producing the first Cliff album that he did called "I'm Nearly Famous."
Yeah,
and he said, "Well, guys, it's either you or the Beverly Sisters." And we've kind of, sorry, any Beverly Sisters fans who are listening, but we kind of had it with them. So would you like to come and sing on a Cliff album? So, we getting paid. Oh yeah, of course you can. And So, and he kind of put his ear. He's been listening to us on over microphone for, about 4 hours. And he wanted to hear us, in the flesh, as it were. So he went round. As we sang something, he went round because Bruce was a stickler on tuning, absolute fanatic. He would get to Shadows gigs, hours before the band and tune everybody's guitar up, ding, 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 like really, OCD on for tuning. Right. And anyway, so we got the first gig with Cliff, and that was in Abbey Road number 2, the Beatles studio, and we sang on probably about 4 or 5 hits in one night. Backing vocals, the tracks were already done, and everything was done except the backing vocals. And so we added, Tony did some arrangements, and we sang them, and yeah, Devil Woman was one of them. Can't Ask for Anything More Than You. Some others, which I can't remember. We did them all in one night. Cliff was there, and we got him. He loved to sing. He loved the vocal group, loved it, and wanted to. So Tony gave him a bass part, and on that thing in Miss You Nights, and all that, he's doing the bass part, which Tony gave him. He loved it, absolutely loved it. And we tracked that up. What we used to do is we used to track up about 4 times. So these days they cheat, right? So instead of people singing in harmony and blending and then double tracking that, they'll do the bass part, and all 4 will sing the bass part. Then they do the middle part, and all 4 will sing the middle. Then they sing the top part. I mean, it's excuse me, but it doesn't sound anything like 3 guys who can actually singing together in harmony. And then, hey, you're back. Hello, Mark. John Kirby, Miss You Nights. Why? What's that all about? Anyway, is he making a comment or something?
Yeah,
he's making a comment.
I think he was talking about one of the songs you sang.
Is he listening?
Yeah.
Kirby. I thought you'd be out working or something, doing something sensible. Anyway,
John Kirby, sensible?
John Kirby, sensible?
Well,
no.
Fair enough, fair comment. But so Cliff loved all that. And what were we talking about? I Miss You Nights, and how do we get singing with Cliff? Oh, yeah, so he's gone back to the old screen again. We did a few more tracks, and then we had a phone call. Would you like to go live? Do live shows. And we hadn't actually been, although we've been in the Castaways and Grapefruit and all of that, gigging all the time. We hadn't, since we'd done this vocal backing thing, we've been in the studios for a couple of years, and there's only the engineer in the room and the artist maybe and the producer, and that's it. So, and we said, what you mean? People are going to be sitting there looking at us while we sing? Oh, blimey, So, and once again, they threatened us with money. So we started doing it, and that's how we did it. And then the next one was gospel tours, where we got a phone call. So would you like to come on one of Cliff's gospel tours? I said, what's that? I mean, you don't get gospel tours in Dagenham, where I come from. What's the gospel tour? He said it's very similar to his normal show. He said, but he talks about his faith a bit. I said, don't worry, it doesn't hurt. So we started doing those as well. So we did it all. We went all over Europe with him, and then as he got more successful, the tours got bigger. So we're off to Australia and America and South Africa significantly. That was great, South Africa. And so as he got bigger, the gigs got further away, and more hot climates. You know what I mean? The sun.
I don't know if you realize
if you're a Brit, the sun shines. That's incredible. More than one day on the trot. That's amazing.
John, I don't know if you realize
not like John Kirby living in Las Vegas.
Yeah, not like Kirby.
Cliff Richard was virtually unknown in the States.
That's right.
Up until Devil Woman.
Yeah.
So for all those years where he's scoring #1 hits left and right in the UK, we're not hearing him very much. And finally, Devil Woman broke for him, and then We Don't Talk Anymore was another big hit.
Yeah, that's a great record. Yeah.
Were you on Sheena Easton's album? Did you do background vocals?
I was. That'd be Tony and maybe his son and a guy called Alan Carvel, possibly. I don't know.
Alan Carvel was wonderful.
Not as good as me, though, mate.
No, not
who could be?
I like Mark. Mark's a good bloke.
No, his album Skateboard Rampage is a big favorite of mine, as is Around Grapefruit. So who's better? Well, of course you are, John.
While you're on the screen, you're the favorite. Yeah.
There you go. Good comeback. Let me see if I can. Does that make David better? Is he better there?
No. It's funny because when it gets clear, all the pictures get smaller, sort of go more towards the center and shrink a little bit.
I'm not sure, John. What's in your cup you're drinking? I don't know about your screen getting smaller.
Well, nothing now. Oh, I see. Well,
I think it's got to be one of those drinks from the 60s.
This is a psychedelic cup. Look at it.
Yeah, look at that.
He's having tea.
Yeah.
It's like the Ruddles.
It was actually
the Ruddles were turned on to tea.
That's probably why I'm talking so much. It's not a cup of coffee, but there you go.
Well, you weren't talking too much, and we really loved what you did. We need to kind of finish now, but
okay.
What's going on in your life presently?
Well, I work with a 4-piece band called the 501s, which is a covers band, and the 501s is related to the Genes and the era that the Genes were made in. Right. And so we do anything from the 60s up to Stereophonics now, Dakota but we do Beatles tunes, and our act starts with Nowhere Man and then ends with Dakota or something like that, you know. So we got everything in between, the Kinks and all kinds of. It's a great little band. Funnily enough, no, but we have talked about that. But
Elevator. That's my Grapefruit song.
That was one of the ones we did at my party. I got some video of that. That's on YouTube. If you find me on YouTube, I don't know how you find me. God. Oh, see, you're back again. All of a sudden, look, when John, keep sending messages. The video for Cliff's song, No One Waits. Oh, yeah, no, that's right, John, yeah. So if you want to say, all right, so me and Tony and Cliff did a Cliff song called No One Waits, and there's a place called Knocker or something, and they were all like Dutch music biz types. They were all bored, seen it all, done it all. Oh, who's this Cliff bloke? By the end of that song, they were almost standing ovation. Because I look at it now. I hit notes. I don't even know how I got up there. I get a nosebleed. Just thinking of it. Hello, is that your phone or my phone?
Yeah, but it's mine. I turned it off.
Delivery.
Probably John Kirby, isn't it?
Probably John Kirby.
No, it's not.
Giving you some grief. Have you? Can you get? I know you got to go, ain't you? All right. I was going to say, can you not get No One Waits on your thing and play it? Check it out.
Oh, I will for sure.
Yeah.
No,
but and don't forget
the actual video. Yeah,
I've written this all down. So
yeah, so that'd be Cliff Richard at Knocker. I think it is. No One Waits. Cliff Richard live.
Okay.
You see, sure. there is nothing overdubbed on there at all. That is God's honest truth. That is all live. And the thing we were hot on was blend. You know, me and Tony and Ken and Stuart later on, we had to blend together. And I had an engineer friend of mine told me one day who'd been on the other side of the glass when we were singing. He said the thing about backing vocals voices is they change depending on who they're trying to sing with. And they adapt. They're like a chameleon voice, and it changes to go with the other guys, so it blends. And I think we're probably more talented than we thought we were. There's a number of little issues there, which when you think about it, you think, "Oh, that sounds difficult." But we used to do it naturally,
Yeah.
But so there you go. Oh, shut up now.
This was a genuine pleasure, and
you're welcome.
Hopefully one day, and I'd love to meet you one day. So unfortunately, the timing doesn't sound good for this Liverpool stint.
Send us an email with the details of that, and I'll have a look at the calendar and see what.
You're
not coming further south than Liverpool, is that it?
Not this time, unfortunately. We did the festival for 4 years in London, from 2011 through 14.
You never rang me up.
I never rang you up. I didn't have your number. Should have asked John Kirby.
I'm watching the video right now for No One Waits. Nice bell bottoms and white outfits. You look like the Bee Gees. Yeah.
I think we sound a bit like them as well. No, Cliff's got a great voice, so it's a pleasure to sing with somebody like that. And we had Tony did a great arrangement on that, and it was great.
He always does.
Well, John, if you make it over here to South Jersey, make sure you get in touch with me, and
Mark,
we'll
bless
hang.
you.
We'll hang. It'd be wonderful. Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Really,
Well,
really
bless
been
you.
a
It's been fun.
pleasure.
I always enjoy talking too much. You know, it's a pleasure.
We enjoyed having you sincerely.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Best
Thank you,
wishes,
John.
Mr. Perry. Thank you for all the great music, and keep doing what you're doing, man. We love it. And
Thank you. Heartrecords.org.
Yes, I wrote it down. I'm checking it
Grapefruit
out.
segments. Now, come on, you got to do something with that. You got to make me a star in America. Come on.
hold
I'll
on,
do my best.
I'm going to put this on here right here. It's Heart, HEART records.org.
Yeah.
We hit that, and here comes the banner right there.
Boom! There you are.
heartrecords.org.
Look at that. Wow.
Everybody can see it. When it's on archive, everybody can watch the archives. They know heartrecords.org. That's where to find John Perry. And everybody go out and do that.
All right.
And
Bless you guys. I can see you now, Dave.
Oh wow!
See, now
Sorry
that
about that.
That's it. Sorry about that.
love the hat. Very cool.
Thank you.
You take care, dudes.
Have
You
a
too.
great one, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Have
so
a great
much,
night.
John.
See you.
Nice to meet you. Take it easy.
Well, there you
that
have
was
it,
fun.
David. Man, that was so much fun.
I just love it when people from back in the day are so enthusiastic about what they've done, and he does have. He says he doesn't remember things, but he certainly has some great recall. I mean, the story about Hey Jude, can you imagine walking into that? And at that point, you already know this is going to be a huge hit because it's the Beatles.
John's got a great sense of humor. That's why I enjoyed this interview. I always enjoy great sense of humor. But when he said, Paul pointed his direction and said, come on up, I thought he was going to say he got up and started walking up, and Paul said, no, not you.
No, or maybe he would have said, nah, I want nothing to do with this. He wanted to be like focal point.
Second thought, put those headphones down and go back and sit down. But no, I mean, I can't even, that's why, we talk about nostalgia and things that will put you back in a place and time. And we've interviewed a lot of people that have had, close working relationships with people that we all idolize. And that kind of a moment, I just wonder how fresh it sticks in someone's memory, because it's an amazing moment. So,
well, clearly some things definitely stuck in his mind, others didn't.
yeah,
But
it's great.
he was fun and into it, very entertaining.
And if you can find that record store day release around Grapefruit, man, find it. It's great.
Have you been able to find it?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't know how many, was it 2,500 were pressed or something like that, probably?
But very few made it to the States. I know that. Were you able to get it here, or did you have to order it from
No,
overseas?
I got it up in Collingswood at Record Store Day. They had 2 copies there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've got a bunch of stuff coming up. Next week, of course, it'll be John Borak has confirmed that he will appear with me.
Oh, nice. Okay. I will not be here next week. I will be on vacation with my daughter. So when David goes, all the way to Liverpool and flies this way, I'm flying that way. I'll be on the West Coast.
Yeah, you'll be flying here before we fly there, but you'll be flying home after we fly there.
Yeah. It's a whole mix-up thing. Who knows? We might be on the same plane. I don't know.
Yeah, the irony is Mark will be physically closer to me than he ever has when we've done an episode, but he's not going to be on the episode.
Right.
But John Borak will, and we'll have fun talking about whatever. I'm sure, John's got a lot to say about a lot of things, and so do I. And the following week we'll be in Liverpool at IPO at the Cavern for our 20th year, and we'll be we'll do. John, I believe, will join Mark again this time on the 29th, and we'll do a live segment from the Cavern, which we've done a couple of times, and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah. We'll get a few bands on, some who haven't played yet, some who just played, and we'll have some great time with that. The following week, we have singer, songwriter, author Morty Shulman coming on, and he's very, very he's a great guy, very entertaining. Yeah, always has a lot to say. That's true. And he has a new book, War and Sex. That is the title, correct?
Yes. Yeah,
War and Sex that's just come out, and we'll talk about that, of course, and some of the musical projects that he's been involved with. And it should be great. And following week, which will be June 13th, we've got a guest that you brought.
Yeah, we got
June 12th, right?
June 12th. Yeah, we've got a husband and wife team coming on to the show. Vibeke Sagastad on Pop Detective Records. She was on Sony International for 2 major label albums. She won a Norwegian Grammy with the band Weld, but moved here to the States in upstate New York and married Ken Fox of the Fleshtones. So they're both going to join us June 12th. So Vibeke Sagastad and Ken Fox, could be great.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I've never met her, but I've been a fan of her music for sure.
One of the nicest people I have ever met. Just an absolute wonderful person.
Yeah.
And great musician. I mean, on top of it all.
For sure.
And so's Ken. I mean,
on the 19th, we've got another current musician. He's been around quite a while. He prides himself on being very subversive, and indeed he is, but in a very, I don't want to say innocuous way, but we'll just say in a harmless way. Very, very clever guy. Has put out lots and lots of records. His name's Andras Jones, and you will be thoroughly entertained. He hosts a radio show called Radio 8 Ball, in which he actually uses the 8 ball, the toy that all of us grew up with. He uses it to help answer questions and predict what you're going to do and things like that. So that's fun. And we'll talk about his new music and all of that. The following week, on June 26th, we have a woman who I've been a fan of for many, many years, starting with her stint in Game Theory. She was in Game Theory for a few years on a few of their albums. Then she formed her own band called Hex, who put out a great record in 1990. And I got to see them play at Bogart's in Long Beach. And that was fun because I really loved the record. She's put out stuff over the years, and she's pretty brilliant too. So we're really glad to have Donette Thayer on Material Issues on June 26th. So we've got everything spoken for
that takes us
well over a month
all
now.
the way up to July. Yeah, holy cow, man. So
hopefully we'll continue to see people there and then and there, as it were. And so at this point, I'm I wish I could have made the announcement today, but I want to get it right. So it'll have to
tune
be
in.
It'll have
tune
to be
in.
Well, hopefully I can make the announcement tomorrow on Facebook, but I would have loved to have unveiled it here. But anyway,
it'll be very cool though to talk about it live next week.
Yes, I have made Mark privy to what's going on, but again, I have to say it exactly right. So I don't want to announce until I get get the final deets on this. But
at
any rate, it's something that's extremely exciting to me. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So we'll until then, have a great rest of your week. Mark, have a safe trip out here. I look forward to seeing you at some point during your stay here.
Let me make sure you give me a call. Let me know about that dinner date we're thinking about. And
for sure I'll be there. We'll see if Rena can join.
Oh, good. Maybe anybody else out in LA wants to all join us. We'll just make it a table for 20. And
hey, why not, right?
Well, my daughter's
actually maybe John Borak would want to come up
because going on? Yeah.
John also loves Record Safari, so maybe he'll come up too. Who knows?
More the merrier.
Oh, really? All right. Well, in that case, I'll put an announcement on Facebook saying anyone who wants to join us,
My daughters and I are just, we're having a great time out there doing a lot of things.
John Perry, John Kirby, anyone named John Borak, anybody else named John?
We're looking for Johns. I feel like a prostitute. I'm looking for Johns. But it's all good. But hey, another great show. Episode number 154.
Yeah.
Which means We're only, what, 2 episodes away from like 3 full years of episodes.
3 full years, yeah. Mark was a math whiz. Still
Wow,
is.
I was.
52 times 3 is 156.
It took me about 12 seconds to figure that out, but yeah.
I know you're familiar with 12 seconds, so.
Story of my life.
Yeah, speaking of which, that may relate to some potential guests we have coming up, but
we'll
talk about that later.
Hey, we always have irons in the fire and fire in our irons. That's the way we like to say like that. But have a great night, everybody. Join us next week, or join David and John next week right here on Material Issues, materialissues.com. Tell all your friends, and we got a lot of great shows coming up. So make sure you subscribe here, subscribe over on YouTube, and we'll let you know. It's a fun ride. Join us.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Take care.